Swallowed is a unique indie film with compelling characters, bugs, drugs, and horrific intimacy. The film follows Ben's last night in a small town before leaving to LA to change his life. Thinking it will be just another chill evening with his friend Dom, they get in the car to leave their local bar together for one last time. But Dom has other plans. As they swing by to see his cousin, a plan unravels that takes them both by surprise and sets them on the most dangerous journey of their lives. It's a story full of unsuspected twists and horrific consequences. I'm staying extremely vague because one of the best parts about this movie is its unexpected reveals. The movie, and particularly the lead Ben, has an alluring quality that is immediately likable, which sets the audience up for a tough ride. Writer-director Carter Smith, who also directed The Ruins in 2008, believes that this is his return to the darker side of horror. His first time returning to these roots since his first film, Bug Crush. Bug Crush got him discovered by Steven Spielberg, which is why he ended up directing The Ruins. But Swallowed is more of a personal story, following queer characters and also Ben, the lead character, who is escaping his small town, just like Smith did when he moved to New York at 17. Smith said that he struggled to see himself within film and particularly within horror. He said, quote, "As a queer kid, growing up in rural Maine felt dangerous. At least as dangerous as the horror movies I loved so much, maybe more so. I wanted nothing more than to see myself in the films I loved. What I got were campy sidekicks, deranged serial killers, faint undercuts, and vague subtext which barely touched on the loneliness I was feeling. I wanted to see someone who felt what I felt, who loved how I hoped to love. Or I wanted to be scared while I was with them, horrified by what was about to happen to them, or what might not happen, terrified by the darkness lurking as they struggle to face their worst fears." Swallowed is a queer midnight love story that explores how far we are willing to go to protect the people we love. There's blood and pus and sweat and tears. And it's exactly the tender, sweaty body horror film I wish my teenage self had discovered in the midnight section of my local video store. You can tell by this quote that the writer, he really knew what he wanted to create, and I feel like there is a part of this film that is limiting itself by trying to fit into this box. Instead of going all out, the film sticks to a simplistic yet dark story. It's not over the top, and as chaotic as the situation seems, there's a level of control to it. I wouldn't call it predictability, but the audience will acknowledge after the twists, there's only one way it can end. This is not a film that's out for shock value, but instead willing to put time into valuing its lead character, which feels very different for modern horror and audiences that need constant stimulation to stay focused. It's a controlled chaos that feels intentional, and the director knew exactly what he wanted to achieve. It felt like years went into the planning, but with such a strict structure, the film stays safe in its second half. Personally, I would have expected the wild storyline to continue throughout the film, but after it settles down, the film feels like it fades out slowly. In doing so, it leaves more of an emotional impact and not such a thrilling one. It morphs from a strange, loose, probably not the word to use with body horror, but loose body horror structure into more of a thoughtful drama. But the acting is what really seals the deal for this film. Cooper Koch plays Ben, and although his role in They Them is something most people want to forget, in Swallowed he steals the show, along with Jenna Malone, who is in her element as the menacing Alice. I haven't seen Jenna Malone in a role that is so well suited to her in many years. I, like many horror lovers, love Jenna Malone or any Donnie Darko fan, and I have just hoped, maybe Donnie Darko and Saved. I had hoped to see her in a role where she could really express herself, and in this role, I was really impressed by her, and it was just amazing to see. So if you're a fan of her work, put this one down. It's worth to see it for her alone. Jose Colin plays Dom in his first feature role, and then of course we have Mark Patton, who just recently I talked about in detail when I did the Nightmare on Elm Street ranking. It's amazing to see him in this kind of role, especially by a queer filmmaker. It just warms my heart seeing him come back into horror. Although he's been sprinkled throughout recently, it's nice to see him in this kind of more serious role. But it is night and day between this role and Jesse Walsh in Freddy's Revenge. There's something just magnetic about the chemistry between the characters in this film. The level of talent is rarely come by in such a small production. And in fact, the whole film was shot in only 15 days. The cinematography focuses on very close and personal shots, and the music only creeps up slowly during intense scenes. But what I felt was the most interesting aspect of the cinematography, and really the set design, or more the location choices, was the isolation. And because this is an indie film on a very small budget, it makes sense. All of the locations without intentional characters were completely empty. It felt like the characters were the only people on Earth at the time, and that has nothing to do with the story. But it does help with the director's intent, and it just shows how much focus they had on this film. It feels like everything else fades out into the background and the story is laser focused. Overall, Swallowed is a simple yet poetic story about a friendship and self-protection. It's well worth a spin if you're a fan of indie character-focused stories with concise conclusions, but it may feel slower towards the end tail. I am extremely excited to see what's next for this director-writer and for his unique spin on the horror genre. I'm gonna give this film a personal score of 7 out of 10. Keep in mind, this is an indie film, it's on a budget, but if you love interesting ideas and something a little bit different with, of course, Jenna Malone, I think you might want to watch this one. For scare, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10, although it does have some very squirmy scenes. I feel like a lot of it is inferred, and as much as this is a body horror film, you don't really see anything, which I wish it would have gone a little bit further at. That's kind of what I'm hinting at. I wanted more from that aspect, and it kind of fizzled out, so that was a big bummer for me. Probably not the right use of term again, but just keep in mind it's more about the idea and the characters than anything you see on screen being shocking. It's the situation that is horrific. And for originality, I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's a little bit of a notch above the rest for something completely different and something unexpected. Although, again, I just wish we went that little bit further. I'm really excited to see what's next again for this director. Have you seen Swallowed? Let me know down below in the comments, and please let me know your favorite body horror. I would love to hear that. And if I find enough interesting and different ones, I might make a video out of it, and I love your suggestions. My comment section is always filled with such good recommendations. My to watch list is through the roof. I know that you guys always comment that I do the same for you, so thank you for doing that for me as well. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, hi, I'm Emma, also known as Spookyastronauts here on YouTube, and I do videos every single week talking about horror movies, talking about thrillers, and putting a lot on your to watch list. If you like a focus on more disturbing, darker kind of films, or films that you probably missed, I love finding films that no one's seen and recommending them, because I'm sure, like you guys, I watch so much content and I see people recommending the same stuff over and over, and I just want to find something new for you, so that's my aim here. And sometimes I do an okay job at that. So if you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have you here. And if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can always head over to the Patreon. It's only $2 a month, and you get a bonus video every single week. A little bit more raw, a little bit more unscripted, if you'd like to check that out. And I'll see you guys in the next video, which is gonna be a trip. I'm putting myself through the ringer for you all. It's a scary, scary ride, but it's not what you think. I'll see you there. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.